Survival of the fittest. Another week has come and gone in the 2025 fantasy MLR season, and our league managers are trudging on despite all of the chaoticness. We break down everything that went down in week two, look ahead to week three, and of course, talk a little bit of waiver wire plus much more. The Fantasy Rucker Show starts right now.
Where rugby and the world of fantasy sports collide. Welcome to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, talking all things rugby from the MLR to leagues around the world. We're on top of it. Headphones on, pads off. This is the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Now, here are your hosts, Ryan Yee, Matt Yee, and Devin Vanderpool.
What's up, everybody? This is episode 143 of the Fantasy Ruckers Show. Thank you so much for Fantasy Ruckers League members, our community members, and everyone else tagging along on this journey of making fantasy rugby a reality in the MLR. With you each and every single week, Matt Yee, Devin, Vandy, Vanderpool. I am Ryan Yee. And guys, like I said at the top of the show, it is the survival of the fittest in our listener league. Matt, Vandy, going head to head, and it does look like that Vandy might be the fittest of them all out of the three of us.
Don't hear that very often, baby.
No kidding, huh? But boys, another fantasy MLR season in the books. Week two has come and gone. Pretty exciting so far. Whether that exciting and chaos and everything else in between is a good thing, that is yet to be determined. But it has been a pretty wild 2 weeks, to start off the fantasy MLR 2025 year.
I mean, hey, bye-mageddon on week two. That's new.
It's true.
That's
It's very new.
That's very new.
You don't see that in any sports, and that's why fantasy MLR is where it's at.
The beast.
I mean, we had that YouTube short out that we now do because we are,
do shorts.
because
we're 5'2".
Yeah. But Vandy, I think what caught on pretty quick was your little quote last week saying, when you get into that fantasy mode, right, there's always that feeling that hits when you're like, why the heck do I put my emotion, mental capacity through the ringer that is fantasy sports? And when it comes to fantasy MLR, that feeling hits a little bit early. In this case, week one, it hit, and then it continued in week two. And now we are heading into week three. And I'm sure that feeling is only going to get stronger and stronger.
You know what? I pulled out a dub, so that feeling went away for a week. So you know what? I don't know what I was talking about last week. Loser syndrome. Matt probably feels the way this week.
Hey, buddy, broke clock works twice a day.
Hey, the remedy to everything is always getting that big dub. So, Vandy, big win. The head-to-head TFR win here. When it comes to our listener league, I, of course, came out with a big W as well. I think I'm the only one in the listener league right now with the 2-0 record.
You are
rolling right now. We'll get to the weekly challenge because that's a whole other story.
Oh, yeah, we will.
And then when it comes to our TFR league with all of some of the biggest names in Major League Rugby, when it comes to community contributors, we're going to bounce back in that one. Don't you worry. But we'll get into that. Busy episode we have on this episode 143, kind of the full swing of things here. We, of course, will go over the week that was in week three, go over all the matches, dish out some team of the week honorees. We got some news to also talk about, some updates in our Supreme Commissioner Yee's League update. We'll give you some waiver wire options as well. And of course, we'll look ahead and give our predictions for the upcoming week three that is back to full swing with only one team on bye, and then talk a little bit of betting towards the tail end of the show. But if you aren't already, before we get into it, give us a follow, like, subscribe. The handles are up above on the YouTube video, down below in the description at the Fantasy Ruckers. Got a whole bunch of content out there right now. Like we said, we have those shorts that are kind of fun, little snippets of the show, which are fun to kind of go through and put together. We, of course, also have your weekly content when it comes to your waiver wire selections, your starts of the week, your team of the week, the weekly challenge that we put out, and a whole bunch of other stuff in between. You'll get all that content on your social media channels, X, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff at the Fantasy Ruckers. Subscribe, like we said, to this YouTube channel. Been getting a lot of growth with the people that are watching, which has been great to see. And we want to keep that momentum going. And if you aren't already, join the Discord community as well.
Oh,
That area has been popping off. Lots of good chatter when it comes to everything MLR, including both fantasy and just Major League Rugby chatter. And you'll also want to check out the fantasyruckers.com, the official platform for fantasy MLR here on the Fantasy Rucker Show. Got a whole bunch of cool stats. Even if you aren't in a league, or aren't partaking in our weekly challenge, which I do suggest you do if you're listening. Cool place to kind of just check out a whole bunch of stats from a week to week basis and see how players are doing each and every single week. All right, you guys ready? No time to waste. You want to get right into it?
Oh, yes.
News dump.
All right, it is time for the TFR News Dump, where we go over the latest news and notes from around the league and beyond. A couple notes I think that we need to talk about to start off with is we got to give a huge congratulations to the very first Major League Rugby player to hit 100 MLR caps. That is Dylan the
The
Butcher
Butcher.
Fawcett. Congratulations to Dylan Fawcett for reaching that awesome milestone. I think it's a testament to obviously his success that he's seen and longevity that he's seen in this league, but also a testament to this league and how far it's come to have a player that has reached 100 MLR caps. Dylan Fawcett scoring a try as well, which we'll obviously get into in the breakdown in that Chicago game. But boys, one of our mainstay fantasy players, top front rower probably in all of fantasy MLR history. He's definitely up there. Hits 100 caps.
yeah. I mean, hey, the guy's etched in MLR kind of legacy forever, essentially, with 100 caps or not, because that's just how quality he is and how quality he's been for the MLR. I think what, three teams, one MLR Shield. Yeah, pretty good career and a whole lot of tries to go along with it. So, pretty great career. Congrats to him. 100 caps is nothing easy. Yeah,
Uh,
unreal.
a pretty crazy stat that was put out by MLR Stats and North American Rugby Databases, James Dealey. The U.S. capped Irishman, that is Dylan Fawcett, the Butcher, has played in more MLR games than the Houston SaberCats as a franchise, the NOLA Gold as a franchise, and Vandy, your Utah Warriors as a franchise. So, I mean, yeah, this guy has been a mainstay of this league, which is pretty incredible. Again,
Hey, this
congratulations.
this might be a dumb question, but if you come off the bench, do you still get a cap or does it
Yes.
start?
No. You come off the bench, you still get a
I
cap.
like that. Okay, I like that.
100 caps for the Butcher. Pretty cool stuff. All right. Moving on to some more, I guess, roster transaction news that might have an impact on some fantasy managers out there looking to get the edge in week 3 of the fantasy MLR season. A couple new, or I should say familiar faces coming back to Major League Rugby. One has been confirmed, one is reported, and it might be something that is of note here come around this waiver wire period. The first is Kyle Bailey, the second rower, the big man, Canadian, is returning to the New England Free Jacks for the 2025 season. He has been obviously a mainstay with the New England Free Jacks. He has been, I would say, quite fantasy relevant when it comes to kind of streaming options, guy that has a whole bunch of hits and kind of makes that impact there at a very, very shallow position that is second row. Kyle Bailey will definitely be in and out of rosters here for fantasy managers here, especially now that he is returning and confirmed returning to the New England Free Jacks.
Yeah, he's a workhorse, and he'll definitely be a streaming option.
Then the other roster announcement that has not yet been confirmed, but there is rumblings from the TFR sources, and that is I think that we may see a potential return of Bodine Waka.
The
And that name might sound a
legend.
little bit familiar to fantasy managers out there because Bodine Waka, yeah, Vandy, like you said, is a fantasy MLR legend in terms of the points that he scored. What was it in our very
Oh,
first fantasy MLR year? Like he was lights out. And again, mind you, to contextualize it, it was a time where here on the Fantasy Rucker Show and our Fantasy Ruckers fantasy platform, we were the stats that we were gathering was not as in depth as we are now. Either way, I think stats or no stats, I think everyone knew that Bodine Walker was a guy that you wanted on your fantasy MLR team
Hmm.
because he was electric.
oh, he's unreal. And you know what? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he followed us too. He's one of our, I think, our
One of
first
our
ever
OG, I
MLR
think.
players to follow us.
that's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think what was it, 2 years ago? 2 years ago when he came back for the New England Free Jacks, we didn't see that much impact from
Yeah.
him. I think this year we have the opportunity. He has the opportunity, and there's space on that roster for him to have a
Because he
much
was
bigger
what,
impact on
fullback,
that team.
Matty?
Yeah, and Reese McDonald was there at the time, and Jason Potros was there at the time. So we are trying to figure out where he fits in. Now he's got that perfect spot at 15,
Mm-hmm.
and slots right in.
Yeah, so we'll see whether or not. Obviously, he's been playing overseas in Japan, been getting a lot of experience there. Yeah, he did play a pivotal fly half position before Putros came for the New England Free Jacks, and then obviously departed. Putros coming in when Matthew, like you said, when he came back, kind of went in and out of that fullback position there, and we'll see how he slots in here, possibly heading into week 3 of the Major League Rugby season. Last guy that I want to mention in our news dump here is not a signing that has happened in the MLR, but a former MLR player. I mean, you could say that because that's the most recent thing, but his a name that's very familiar. Vandy loves this guy. All Blacks, Ma'a Nanu, and former San Diego Legion player, has signed with Toulon. I think he heard about my futures bet about
Hmm.
Toulon winning the top 14 and said, you know what, let's help Ryan out to see and make that come to fruition. We're going to sign with Toulon, help him out, see if they can push him over the edge to maybe come away with a upset top 14 win. But at age 42, signs in one of the best leagues in the world. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, what a
Shout
weapon.
out Nanu.
Shout out Nanu. It's funny because we were talking about him just last show about how they needed one of
Yeah,
those
they need him back.
big body
Ah,
guys, and
we'll get into it.
we'll get into it. But hey, Ma Nanu with Toulon. All right, let's keep this show moving and let's go on to my favorite segment of the show.
Segment's pretty good this week.
Hear ye,
I like
hear
it.
ye, hear ye, hear ye.
All right, hear ye, hear ye. Here
Let's
is
go,
Supreme
Vandy.
Let's
Mr.
go.
Yee with the
Let's
Fantasy
go,
Ruckers
Randy.
League update. You're hearing the Let's Goes, the LFGs from Matt Yee and
Tom Brady,
Devin
let's
Vandy
go. Hurts
Vanderpool.
rent a car.
I just said that this is my favorite segment, but it's quickly becoming my least favorite
Yeah,
segment.
because you
So we're seeing
stink
me
at this
going.
game.
I think I might be the new Vandy. We've
Yeah, buddy.
we had a kind of running joke last year how we said,
Consistency.
consistency is key, and it does look like I'm consistently finishing around 13th so far. We won't mention about my second last finish last week.
Yeah, yeah.
Matt Yee and Devin Vanderpool, your
Come
very own,
on.
the Fantasy Ruckers host, finishing 1-2.
Are you not entertained?
What can I say? What can I say? You know what? Why don't I just give the floor to you guys? The Supreme Commissioner gives the floor to you guys to say what you guys need to say to get it off your chest. The fact that you guys go 1-2 and steal the spotlight from our viewers who are trying to compete in this weekly challenge.
I got one thing to say. You got to give their people their flowers sometimes. Maddie said to play D'Angelo Luila, so I did. But other than that, everything else was mine. Tavita Lopetti played great. Nate Oxberger.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Tavita Tamalu, I can't believe he didn't get more. But you know what? Second place finish. Would have loved to get 3 more and take out Maddie, but you know what? Second's
Sorry,
pretty
bud.
sweet. Second's pretty sweet.
Sorry, bud. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'll stay humble. It's a humble
Oh,
pie
is
up here
that
at the
so?
top.
Is that
Yeah.
so?
Hey,
All right. Well,
I don't get to see this very often. I don't
yeah,
get what's it like being up here? I'm not used to this.
yeah.
Hey
No
man,
kidding.
hey man, you're starting to make it a habit.
Yeah. You got to win in the listener
You know
league.
what?
You
I
got to
turned
win
it
in the
up when you
weekly
guys said you were
challenge,
gonna
basically.
relegate me last year.
That is true. Using it as fuel. I will say because we did it last week, so I got to do it this week. The winning
Mm,
lineup, Matt Yee's winning lineup, consists of Shiloh Klein at
yes,
the
sir.
front row, 13.1. Tavita Time Allow, 4.9 at the
Eh.
second row back row position. D'Angelo Ela, 16.1. Billy Meeks with 13.8 at the center position, and then Thomas Awake, 10.7. I will give a shout out though. Again, like I said, I can't give all the flowers to our Fantasy Ruckers host. Hawks 58 is our highest community member, finishing in the weekly
Part of
challenge,
the
just
community.
behind Vandy by point 0.3, 55.1 for Hawks 50.
I won't shout him out because he beat me last week, but congratulations getting third. Took you this week, bud.
There you go. All right. Last couple things here around the league. New players that will be added this week. League members. So those guys that we're talking about, Kyle Bailey, even Bodine Waka, with the rumored returns, we will be adding all these players to the database. Hopefully by the release of this podcast, for you guys to put those waiver bids in if you choose to do so in the Wednesday at midnight Pacific time deadline. That is the waiver wire that runs. So those will all be there. And then again, we mentioned it last week, but it's awesome to see all the fantasy MLR chatter, even just the regular Major League Rugby chatter in the Discord on game day, all of it. I feel like it's been as active as it has ever been when it comes to our Discord community. So let's keep that up. Love to see it. And I know there's a bunch of shout outs in there and how awesome and tight knit the community is. And that's something that we really do love to see. All right, no more time to waste. We got a whole bunch of games to get into, so let's get right into a recap of what went down in week 2.
Quick Tap Recap.
All right, it is our TFR Quick Tap Recap to go over week 2. 3 teams on bye: the New England Free Jacks, Old Glory DC, Seattle Seawolves. We got some Team of the Week honorees to dish out in these matches. The first time, boys, in this season that we've had at least one Team of the Week honoree from every single match. So 4 matches,
Wow.
all of them having a Team of the Week honoree. It took 2 weeks to get that done. Last week, I feel like it was pretty lopsided in some of the matches we had. This week, a nice little spread between most of the games there. I guess let's begin with the very first matchup of the week, and that is Anthem Rugby Carolina taking on San Diego Legion to open up the week 2 festivities on Friday. And what's felt like might have started out with kind of a back and forth affair. Anthem maybe putting into fruition what Ryan is trying to put into reality, and that is to somehow, in my book and bet, get
Not
over
against-
the 2.5 wins that we decided to put on last week.
Not against San Diego.
It did not go that way. San Diego winning 52-5 and put an absolute hammer down on Anthem Rugby Carolina.
Yeah, you know what's concerning here? I didn't even think San Diego played that well.
No.
I mean, I thought San Diego's offense actually didn't look that great. I didn't see much of their defense. Anthem actually did a decent job slowing down the ball, which really killed San Diego at the start, at least.
Until they shot
but-
themselves in the foot at the start.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? But yeah, I mean, to me, the big takeaways: one, I'm pretty sure Anthem's offense got worse. I don't know how that happened, but I'm pretty sure it got worse. This was a team that we weren't afraid of kind of having some of those guys in our lineups with Anthem, and now we're looking at them as like, hey, they're struggling. Like offensively, they're struggling. The nice thing though is that I think Laine Latu definitely picked it up versus last week. He looked a lot better, almost to the point where he almost may have won that, or I could see him continuing to be in that starting role. So, yeah, I mean,
it does feel, and I will say and admit, I am starting to sweat a little bit about the over 2.5 wins, because I don't think it's going to come. And we will see whether or not that comes. But yeah, I agree with you, Maddie. It doesn't look too great for Anthem right now. It just looks just messy, and just they aren't stringing things together that should be together, in their second year in this with the better players that they have.
Well, it's like simple mistakes too. Like I can't remember who was on the clean break. The guy catches up, he goes to offload to Sam Gala. Terrible offload. They end up turning the ball over there. They get another try, it gets called back, and this is all within the first, 25 minutes. And then from there it just became a downhill.
Yeah. And it doesn't help when you're going up against, Maddie, to your point, a San Diego Legion side that even on their off day looks still pretty decent. I mean, anyone's going to look decent against Anthem these days, but San Diego has come out of the gates hot when it comes to this 2025 MLR season. I mean, 52 points, just incredible. So many guys that you can go down the list in terms of who looked good here for the Legion.
Ethan Grace.
Yeah, before we get into the fantasy ones, I just want to point out that Owaki is an absolute class of a player. I mean, we saw Marcel Brockie go down and get, I mean, we hope that he's all good. We hope that he has a speedy recovery. but Owaki essentially just forgetting about whatever's happening, bigger than the game. I'm going to protect my brother. And he just stood there and said, look, I don't care what's going to happen. This try doesn't matter. I'm protecting Marcel. And hats off to him. That
Yeah,
was
I mean,
that was great to see.
I was on because
And sorry, right. Just to add, for those of you who are maybe new to rugby, like that is the epitome of kind of the rugby culture in some ways, of like the rugby mentality. So yeah, you love to see it.
people were saying, because I know that in rugby, they don't really blow the play dead unless absolutely essential. Especially when it comes to injury, the trainers come on the field and things like that. But I did feel like in that circumstance that maybe that was a good time to do that. Nonetheless, yeah, really cool to see Thomas Awaki kind of do that. I did see Marcel Braque on the sideline. He did dap up Shiloh Klein when he got subbed off. I did see that in the broadcast. So it does look like that, he is at least in good spirits. He did get a pretty good knock there off of Storty's knee when he
Oh yeah.
did get that. But either way, talking about Shiloh Klein and talking about fantasy MLR performances, let's dish out our first team of the week honoree, and that is Shiloh Klein. He was our start of the week. It does feel like at this point that puts the front rower that is going, or the hooker, I should say, that is going against Anthem Rugby Carolina in this start of the week spot each and every week. 13.1 fantasy points for Shiloh Klein in what was a pretty solid fantasy performance for him. One try, 36 meters gained, 15 tackles for a front rower to add a try to that. Shiloh Klein was solid.
Yeah, I mean, I liked him. The guy for me that stood out was Ethan Grayson.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy was basically playing 10 for half the game with Lincoln McClutchy being hurt and kind of Lincoln McClutchy not necessarily picking at all. So they were relying on Ethan Grayson a lot. He ended up getting a lot of 6 conversions in the game, which is unreal. But yeah, for me, Ethan Grayson, I think, has been a standout. Just the improvement from last year, playing 15, no longer being in the centers, playing 15, playing 10. It's really impressive to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that Lincoln McClutchy injury, something that fantasy managers are going to want to watch, because he might have kept playing, but I think that looked like a tough one.
He did get subbed out right at half too, so they kept him in there. Obviously, switching over the kicking duties right away. That might be something with how electric Ethan Grayson was, like slotting some of those. Like it's going to be something that does linger there, which will be interesting. Just to hand out one more team of the week honoree from this matchup, Richard Judd. I mean, just an animal, man. Like he plays the full, was it like, I think he played the full 80 minutes, pulling it up here, which is not something that you get
Tupai subbed in the back 3, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, Connor Tupai. That was an interesting thing too, is that like he's being used outside of just the scrum half role.
I think it was injury reliant, but yeah.
Sure. But it still doesn't take away from the fact that Judd had 80 minutes. 38 meters, had that sneaky try there, added 2 try assists to that as well. Didn't even do that with kind of his marquee kind of involvement on the defensive end, which is probably something you're not going to get often when you have the ball so much against Anthem Rugby Carolina. But Richard Judd, and I'll give myself flowers if that's a thing to do. I think he's looking to be one of the top scrum halves in fantasy MLR, right along Gonzalo Bertrand this season. 16.2.
I just want to shout out Mitch Wilson too. I think he only played 51 or 52 minutes, and he was the top meters made of the match.
Yeah, he looked good too. He looked much better than week 1. Much better than week 1.
All right. Let's move on now to the second match. First match on Sunday now. The Chicago Hounds.
Come on now.
Hosting the Utah Warriors. The haters are gonna hate. We're building into this match. No one was thinking that the Utah Warriors were gonna come out like this.
I think we predicted winners last week, and I'm pretty sure I said Utah, so I would say nobody.
Did. Do you know why, Vandy? Because you're a loyal fan. I'm like that guy on the other side.
That is true.
Draft day, I said Joe Mono comeback season. Now, Maddie said it best. 2 give me tries. But Joe Mono
you got to be there.
Baby.
You got to be there.
I mean,
you got to be there to score them.
To put an overarching view on this match. I mean, first of all, exciting as heck,
Oh,
right?
great
Like, I mean,
game.
Utah comes out just guns a blazing in terms of scoring points. Chicago gets right back into it, and then really it was like up in the air, and Utah just put the foot down in terms of scoring points. 45 points against a pretty solid Chicago Hounds team, especially for a team that you really didn't know what to expect with the amount of change that they had this offseason. But I mean, Utah, kudos to you guys. Starting off the season 1-0 off of the bye week, 45-31 victory over the Hounds.
That's right. That's right. You know what? Typical Utah fashion, too. This felt like your Utah game. We went up 21, I think it was 21-7. They came all the way back. I think they made it
And
28-21.
absolutely
And
zero
then,
defense.
what'd you guys think of that chart? Was it Charlie Abel who got the red card? I th-
Oh yeah, I can't even remember. I mean, what was it? It was just like a pop to the head, right?
Yeah, pop to the
Yeah.
head.
What'd you guys think of that?
I think it was harsh.
Okay.
They've
I seen
it
it was
does
controversial. I don't know what to make of it because it's
it
similar to
does
football. If you make the head contact, whether you blow them up or you don't, you made the play.
it does feel like the MLR is having an emphasis on that this year. Not as many cards this week,
Yep.
but that was kind of a traditional
Because
kind of
you know
call.
what? I
They
gotta
aren't
say,
afraid to pull out the red.
he didn't hit
It
him
does feel
hard,
like.
and he actually let up. Like Charlie Abel quit on the hit to the head. Like he's the one who fell down. So I thought it was a little weak. I mean, we benefited off it, got the try.
Yeah.
So
But yeah. I mean, I agree. I think for me, I'll start with Chicago, and then I'm gonna hype up your boys, Vandy. But Chicago, I mean, to me, they felt like they played very narrow. I mean, they started getting it out to the wings at the end of the game, but it just even though Augsburger scored, like it wasn't a try like what we usually see him running in space. It was kind of a fluke try there. The game overall just felt like there wasn't a lot of phase building. It was a lot of like playing off of mistakes,
yep.
and Utah did that incredibly
That's
well.
how we play, man. We just need those
Yeah.
clean breaks. Spencer Jones had a big one.
Oh my gosh, Spencer Jones is a like this guy has like he is a workhorse for this team, and
He is.
he's clearly heavily involved in the offense. And the only other thing I gotta say is like Leula is an absolute truck,
Dude, I was just about
an
to say,
absolute truck.
Joel Hodgson owners, man. I'd
How
be,
clutch was he? Some of those kicks, man.
dude,
I
I'd be a
think
little careful because I'm pretty sure it's the one. He's the one who pin dotted
he
Joe Mono in the end
yes
zone.
yeah yeah
That was
he
nasty. That was nasty.
I'm interested in what this lineup looks like with Joel Hodgson because Leula he wasn't afraid to run with the ball.
No, he
Like I
wasn't.
could see him at center
And
being an
Hodgson does run
absolute
with it, but
truck.
there was some juice there, man. You know what? I
He,
love that tandem. You know, I'd love to see Lasike in there too. But you know what? You can't be mad against that one.
He
That was,
boshed some dudes. Oh, that was
Yeah.
incredible.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was.
So again, I think that was part of the chaos that came out. I mean, like Joel Hodgson managers were scrambling when they saw that come out. But
Yeah.
if you acted fast enough to pick up D'Angelo Leila, if he was available in your leagues, I think he was available in most leagues heading into this week. I mean, he paid off for you. 16.1 fantasy points in this one, the highest point scorer in this match. And he paid off for sure,
Oh,
for sure.
big
And
time.
he would be one. He's like literally point one off of being on this team of the week. So you have to wait for that, but still big time. Just dishing out some other performances here. Got to talk about the Utah Warriors, the Chicago Hounds. Both of them had their defensive set piece being pretty solid looking there. Liam Coltman looked pretty decent
Yep.
there for the Utah Warriors, which attributed to that. So 3.0 points for those two players there. And it might be a little bit caught up, but that is how we got a Team of the Week honoree in each of the matches. Those are your two Team of the Week honorees in this one, which is
That is a
surprising for a
cop-out.
game that was 45-31. But yeah, Matt, you mentioned Spencer Jones, 14.7,
Yeah,
Joe
what a
Mono,
beast.
14.6. And
Jordan
then on the
Trainer looked good too.
Jordan Trainer, and
He
then
looked-
Nate Augsburger. You mentioned it with that try, that kind of cheeky try where he kind of stole it.
Hey, you
14.9
know what?
for him.
I'll
And we'll
take
get
it.
into this player. We'll get into this player more here in the waiver wire segment, but 12.7 for Lucas Rumble, who is right now the captain for the Chicago Hounds, which is
Yes, sir.
something we'll get into. All right, moving on to the next matchup. That is the Miami Sharks taking on the NOLA Gold. That happened a couple hours after the first Sunday match. Man, I want to know. I won't get into it much. Miami comes away with the win here, 30-25. I want to get Maddie's perspective on this because obviously a lot of hype going into the NOLA Gold. They take care of business against Anthem in the first week. They're looking good. I think there was a lot of hype heading into this weekend with how the NOLA Gold can go, especially with a little bit of doubt with Miami in terms of how they're playing and their quality. But Miami, they stood tall and they're playing an interesting style of rugby, this possession style. They're not afraid to kick it. They're not afraid to use the boot. And that paid dividends in terms of forcing NOLA to play with it. They had a lot of turnovers, a lot of mistakes. You could argue that they forced NOLA to make those mistakes to end up losing this match. And Miami comes away 30-25. Maddie, for our in-house kind of guy that's been high on the NOLA Gold, what are your overall thoughts on this one?
I don't know. I think for me, it was a really disappointing game plan from NOLA. One, lineout was extremely messy. Like the number of chances that they had within the 22 and they just messed it up was just ridiculous. That definitely lost them the game there. What I would say is that they clearly had some sort of game plan where they were going to try to put the ball behind Miami and make them turn around. And I don't know, it didn't really work. Like Miami was willing to play kick tennis. They're perfectly fine with that, but they're also willing to counterattack and play well. And their offense looked really good when they had the ball in hand. And at the end of the day, if NOLA continued to kick the ball away, they didn't have the ball, they had messy set piece. You're just not going to win a game that way. But yeah, I'll give kudos to Miami though. Offensively, I love the way that they look. They looked really good in this game. I love the way that Videla looks at 12. I love the way that Milanos looks at 15, actually. But they were led by Ardejo, which I hope that we kind of get into his fantasy stats. Led by Ardejo, they were absolute mutants at the breakdown in the second half. They didn't give NOLA a chance at the breakdown in the second half.
How much confidence does this instill in this Miami team for you the rest of the way? The fact that you've seen it here, that they can play this type of rugby and compete with what a lot of people thought was one of the better teams in this league. I know only after 2 weeks, but I think there was a little bit of concern, obviously, with the end of game, craziness that happened in week 1. They almost had something very similar this week, but they ended up kind of sealing the deal here. But they looked good, a lot better, I think, in week 2 than week 1.
Yeah. I mean, East is going to be competitive.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. East is going to be really competitive. It's tough. It's tough trying to find a standout performer here.
Yeah. Let's talk about the one standout performer that I think we can all kind of put our finger on. Then you mentioned him, Manuel Ardeo, 18.2 fantasy points, is our back row player of the week. 17 tackles, 76 meters gained. A try to add to that in the full 80 minutes played.
And it doesn't say he's got steals, but this guy was a menace. He was a menace at the breakdown.
Yeah. So and that opportunity for him is always going to be there. So yeah, we'll continue to see that. Obviously, people were let down in that first week performance against DC when he had only minus 0.3 points, especially after the yellow card. But he bounces back with a big time one here for Miami. I got to give kudos. Last Miami player for me, Martin Elias. He's looking pretty solid at that 10 position. I mean, 3 penalty kicks, 2 conversion kicks, 12.3 for him with 39 meters gained. Looks solid. But on the NOLA side of things, we'll dish out our first back 3 team of the week honoree here for the NOLA side, Cooper Coates. Obviously, this is a guy that kind of went under the radar heading into the season because I think a lot of the chatter has been Villamone Karoy would take that fullback position. We have not seen Karoy yet. Cooper Coates has started in back-to-back weeks. And then what was a pretty letdown of a first week comes with a heater. 134 meters gained, 2 tries. He looked solid. He looked very good.
He looked good. I think that the high point scourge and the high meters gained is kind of attributing to the way that the game went.
Yeah.
A lot of kicking back and forth, a lot of opportunity for him to counterattack. So yeah, I think it's a mix. He definitely had a good game for sure though.
And then 2 more NOLA guys to add. Jonah Moe. 18.1 fantasy points.
That guy was
for
a
him.
mutant.
Yeah. 118 meters gained, 16 tackles. Didn't even score a try.
By the way, Mignot is going to be a try game type guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going
to be a try game type guy.
Who's
this
that?
year.
Who'd you say?
Xavier Mignot.
Xavier Mignot.
Yeah.
He's going to be a try game guy. A try game.
I think if him and Fido both play, they're just going to trade him.
Big. Yeah. Yeah, a try, 23 meters gained, a try assist too, in the full 80. Yeah, Xavier McNoe, I think, is going to benefit a lot from that fast NOLA offense. All right, let's move on to our last match of the weekend. RFC Los Angeles versus the Houston SaberCats. This one was interesting. RFC comes out hot, looks good, and then it kind of escaped from them, and Houston ends up capitalizing on what was a lot of mistakes, I think, for
Well,
RFC Los Angeles in points, and come away with the win 45 to 28. Tough loss here for RFC Los Angeles. And Houston kind of gets back into regular season form after what a lot of people were disappointed after their first week loss. So Houston back in the win column 1-1. RFC Los Angeles still looking for that first victory of 25. Maddie?
yeah. I mean, look, RFC Los Angeles looked so good every time they played off Billy Meeks. Like
Yes.
every time they played off Billy Meeks' center crash, they looked incredible. So I kind of had my notes like this is what we expected to see from Billy Meeks. Like this is where we wanted to see him, and this is what fantasy managers wanted. So glad that we got that. Skip the first half. Let's get into the second. RFC Los Angeles, a mixture of them throwing it away. They just couldn't get out of their 22 for a lot of that second half. But Houston, man, they picked it up. They picked up their pace of play in the second half. And similar to what Miami did to NOLA, Houston at the breakdown absolutely destroyed RFCLA in the second half. Like the number of turnovers in that breakdown that Houston forced just didn't let RFCLA get anything going and let them get absolutely anything going. So kudos to Houston. I think in that second half, any troubles or concerns that we saw in the first week, that second half gave me a lot of hope in that Houston team, that undefeated Houston team that we've seen in the past, kind of coming back. And by the way, actually moving the ball in the back line once they got Alatimu in, love to
Baltimore's
see it.
pretty good.
They actually had some backline play.
Yeah.
And you love to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to see Nick's more minutes though.
I think they're going to have to, Vandy. I think they're going to have to. Like the way that offense looked in the second half, they're going to have to get Alatimu.
Well, and you know what? The thing was too, like LA had such a good first half. Like, what was it? Rory Van Vliet was just on fire
every time he plays, man.
Yeah.
But then it just seemed like kind of like what you said. Houston just got their feet underneath them and just played their regular game, and then you add in a little backline play, and that's what you get.
Matt, where does this put you back at feeling with this Houston team? Last week, you, I think, out of all of us, were the most down on Houston after last week's performance. Where does this kind of put you now?
I think the second half brings my confidence up. Like the second half was where I was like, all right, this is the Houston team that I expect to see defensively more so. So yeah, I mean, it's there. At least we know it's there. It's not completely gone. All they need to do is just execute.
To get into the fantasy side of things, I will mention before we get into the points, LA, I guess they're trying to shake me off of their fandom because they did a good job of throwing me a curveball and announcing that Andrew Coe was going to be in the starting lineup. And then come game time, kickoff happens. And wait, is that Seth Purdy wearing the number 11 or 14?
Well, Seth Purdy was supposed to be at 11, but it was Jack Shaw that came in at 14.
Right. And it was funny because I guess even the commentators were thrown off kilter because they were calling Purdy Jack Shaw the whole game, even in some of the other
Purdy
stuff.
Looks like a milk bag. There's no way that you can mix him up with Jack Shaw.
Obviously, Maddie back in and knowing Seth. But either way, that kind of threw me off. But from a fantasy perspective, LA. Not really any big time performances from that side. 13.8 for Billy Meeks. Yeah, Van Voot at 18. Saw that. And then Nick Chan also looked good. But I want to touch on the team of the week honorees that all came from the Houston SaberCats side of things. We'll quickly gloss over the second row team of the week, Justin Basson. I mean, I think it's more of an indication on how lackluster the second row position is right now. 8 points is going to get you a team of the week honoree.
Take that, Vandy. Gavin Thornberry's a workhorse.
Either way, Justin Basson is up there. And then again. Davy Kutzer, 16.2 fantasy points there, starting fly half for the Houston SaberCats, looking pretty solid for him. Obviously had the full 80 minutes played, the 78 meters, the 8 tackles, the try assist, and then 3 conversion kicks to add on top of that. Don McKenna kind of slotted himself in this team of the week on the last play of the game.
Interception every game he plays. I don't understand. He got one last game too.
Yeah, 121 meters gained at try, his first try of the season, off of that interception in like what the 85th minute.
Yeah,
I think.
literally
it was
minute.
It was like that, and then Sam Tuifua.
I'm telling you,
very
I had him at the start of the week. I was down on him at the start of the year, but I think if Houston can, the way that he's continuing to get opportunities in the 15-meter channel, so it seems like they are still adamant on getting him the ball. It's great to see him still putting up 17.2 fantasy points. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Well, there you
only last guy, I just want to mention Max Schumacher. Shout out to him. First start, I think, of his career. He played absolutely great. I know it only is 10.2 fantasy points, but like 29 meters gain and a try. But man, he looked really good, and I wouldn't be surprised to continue to see him getting more playing time.
Good to see. Always love to see fresh faces kind of make their notable name here. Scoring that try. Fun to see. All right. Well, team of the week, again, Shiloh Klein in front row, Justin Masson second row, back row, Manuel Ardeo, scrum half, Richard Judd, fly half, Davy Kutzer, Domikina at center, back 3, Cooper Coates, and then a 3-way tie for your defensive set piece, Houston SaberCats, Chicago Hounds, and your Utah Warriors. All right. Let's talk a little bit about looking ahead to week 3.
Waiver wire breakdown.
All right, so another week is in the books. 2 matches for most teams except for the Utah Warriors. People are starting to see the chaoticness and realize, especially our new fantasy managers, about how nuts fantasy MLR gets when it comes to.
I will say, I know it's such a cliche thing in fantasy to say this year's crazier than the last, but this year feels crazy, man.
We had bye-mageddon at round 2.
Bye-mageddon round 2.
Ridiculous.
50% of the draft didn't start last week.
Yeah. We're still playing the game.
You know what was worse? It was bye-mageddon plus weird lineups.
Plus weird lineups.
Well, it was both at the same time.
Shout out LA Twitter. Tell me what's going on with Sammy, boys. Come on. I know he's on bye. I know he's on bye next week. Let's get a week 4 update, please.
That is exactly where I wanted to start off this segment because we talked about it last week. I think we're still playing the game. Forget about where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. Where in the world is Semi Kunatani? Because we're still looking for him. We don't know where he's at. We also have had other kind of interesting lineups. Obviously, Joel Hodgson. Managers drafted him in the first round to see him. Then you see D'Angelo Leila. Another name, Villamona Karoy, who we mentioned, was a guy that I think had a lot of hype around him. Haven't seen him yet. I guess before we get into options of who you're looking at to pick up this week, there's only one buy, so not as many streamer options. Maddie, what is your advice when it comes to
Let me lay it down for you.
Lay it down.
Let me lay it down for you. Kunatani, you're holding. All right, hold. Everybody just hold.
Buddy, I'll hold him all year.
You got to hold him. All right, Villamoni Croy. Sorry, boys. You can. He's droppable candidate right now. He's droppable candidate. Let me tell you another guy who maybe you didn't mention. Luke Carty. If you drafted Luke Carty, I'm sorry, but Dorian Jones has won that job. He is a droppable candidate. Yeah. I'm going to name another name. If you drafted Ruben DeHaas, okay, and you have him in your lineup and you're thinking, oh, he's coming off the bench, I think I might want to drop him, just hold till the lineup comes out, because I think I have a feeling that he's going to be starting this upcoming week.
That is not where I thought you were going to go with that, but interesting note there. Before we get into kind of waiver wire players here, specifically, I will say, because of bye-mageddon, this is one thing that you should always check to see if there were any players that were dropped through the bye weeks that should not have been dropped. I think there's going to be a lot of guys that are in there. You may find yourself maybe an Andrew Quattrin that was maybe dropped to do that. Rickard Hadding, I know he wasn't in that first lineup, but he's a guy that might have been dropped. And if you see him in that starting lineup, he's a guy that you are definitely playing. But yes, keep a lookout for any of the New England Free Jacks, Old Glory DC guys, or Seattle Seawolves guys that may have found their way into your waiver wire
Hmm.
pool that should not be there. I guess let's get right into it, Maddie, and talk about some waiver wire options here. Again, only one team on bye, that is RFC Los Angeles, so not
They
many
need it.
streaming possibilities that are maybe required for this week to get you through the matchups. But we still do have options if you're looking to pivot and need to find a replacement for maybe a guy that has not appeared yet, for a guy that's not cutting it for you, any of the above. I guess first one for me, I think we're both on the same page with this for front row. Obviously, we mentioned it. Take the hookers or take the front row players that are going against Rugby Anthem Carolina. And that is going to be either Sean McNulty or Kirby Myhill. Kirby Myhill obviously started this past week. Sean McNulty in week one. Kirby Myhill is the lesser owned out of the two. But I would not be against the idea of going with your shot of who you think is going to start. Pick them up. And then see when lineups come out to see if you can maybe need to pivot or if you have what could be the top front row player of the week.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, for sure. Kirby Myhill or Sean McNulty. I don't know which one's going to start. I think Kirby Myhill, but that's who I got. Another guy I got for Waiver, Joe Apikatoa on the Anthem Carolina squad. One thing I'm getting to notice with this Anthem Carolina squad, they're going to play a lot of defense this year. And in that front row, second row position, it's definitely advantageous to have guys that are just going to be an opportunity to make tackles. And so he's one of the best players on that team. He's going to be playing for sure. He's going to be a starter, and he's a possible long-term guy front row that you could have and could continue to use, getting 8.9 fantasy points just on the past week.
Yeah, 0% owned and double-digit tackles for a front row player.
Yep.
So he is available literally in every single league. If you need a guy to at least get you kind of that baseline points, Joe Apikatoa is definitely an option. For me, I'm going to go Maake Muti of the Miami Sharks. Also 0% owned, but a guy that is potentially being solid for you. A guy that has played above 70 minutes this past week, and also almost logged double-digit tackles and getting 9 of them. Not often you see a front row player pass the 70-minute threshold, and he does go up against the Anthem Rugby Carolina. So the possibility of him maybe sneaking in a try there is a good one here this upcoming week. If you can't get a hold of McNulty or Myhill, Muti might be an option for you. Moving on to the second row position, guys. I think I mentioned it. The second row position is lackluster. Even your big type names not necessarily getting you a whole bunch of points. So you're really just looking for a guy that maybe won't kill you on this week. For me, I mentioned him last week, and it looks like, and it appears like no one likes to listen to Ryan because I said go pick up Frederico Gutierrez, the starting second row player for the Miami Sharks. He racks up 9.1 fantasy points this past week, or has at least 9.1 fantasy points on the season, I should say this so far, and he's playing a lot of minutes when it comes to the second row position. Racked up 5.2 this past week, 3.9 the first week. If you're looking for a guy again to just get you a baseline of points and not kill you, Frederico Gutierrez against Anthem Rugby Carolina may sneak in a try. He could be an option for you to stream this week.
Yeah, I do like that one. I just got to bring up Vandy. I was looking at Gavin Thornbury for waivers. And I realized a lot of people were picking him up because, I said to pick him up. Clearly, that's how that works. But man,
why do people listen to you and not to me?
This guy did better than Gutierrez. Stat line 0-0-0-0, 16 tackles 0-0-0-0-0. That's all you need.
That's all you need.
I told you he's going to be a workhorse. 16 tackles. Him and Sam Kerr just leading the way. But he is not my waiver pick. My waiver pickup, Ryan, a guy you had in your top 5, Rhino Herbst. Seattle coming off of bye. I think Rhino Herbst is kind of like he should be rostered. He shouldn't be in the waivers. The fact that he's not rostered or he's rostered under 50% of teams or in leagues, that needs to change. So yeah, he needs to get picked up ASAP.
Yeah, 29% so far right now. All right, on to the back row position. One guy I will say, and it's absolutely heinous and a crime that this is even something I need to mention, but Manuel Ardeo is only 71% owned in our leagues. He should be 100% owned. So if you're in one of those leagues where Ardeo is available, I am dropping the bank on trying to get Ardeo if you're in need of a back row player. Like I'm talking about
He's due for like at least 3 more yellow cards this
It's
year.
true.
Yeah.
It is true. But those games when you have him, especially this past week, I know John Fitzpatrick's or Rugby Mornings, John Fitzpatrick had him on his lineup that led him to the victory this week in our main league. He was quite happy to have Ardeo on his roster. But again, 71% owned. So there's a couple leagues out there that don't have him. Drop the bank. I would say 20%. I'm willing to go up on him.
Yep.
But let's talk about two guys that are actually not owned whatsoever. And the first guy I want to talk about is Lucas Rumble, captain of Chicago, which to me is actually quite surprising. And I
Whoa,
think it's just a testament to,
Captain Canada.
yes. But what I'm saying is that this is only his second year, right? Was picked in the draft when the arrows folded, right? The fact that in his 2 seasons with Chicago, it's really a testament to Rumble and his leadership abilities in terms of being able to have an impact on that locker room and that clubhouse so quickly to come in as a new player with the Chicago Hounds to be a leader there. And
They did it by size of feet.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That guy's got possibly the biggest feet, and he
They
just runs with his feet sideways.
flippers there. Yeah, they're all just comparing size. But either way, Lucas Rumble is my pickup of the week. 0% owned, has 16.1 fantasy points on the season. And if he can even, in some shape or form, return some similarly to his Toronto Arrows form, I know it was a letdown
Right.
last year. He can be a monster this
He
year.
looks a lot more involved. He looks
Yes.
a lot more involved this year.
The big one
And
was
those-
breakdown steals. And he
Yes.
had 2 of them this past game, leading to 12.7 fantasy points. He had 80 minutes played. If he's the captain, he's going to be on the field. 41 meters gain as well. I think Lucas Rumble is not just the option that you can pick up for this week or the short term, but a guy that could really make a name for himself moving forward. Obviously, a letdown of a first week, but if the second week is any indicator of what he can do, provide for you value-wise in your squad, Rumble will be solid.
Yeah, and mine's gonna be Dylan Fortune, a guy on Carolina Anthem, whatever the heck their name is, coming in last week with 20 tackles and 10 fantasy points. I think he's gonna get a little bit more opportunity against this Miami squad, but again, like a back rower that's gonna get double-digit tackles 2 weeks in a row. I think that's something that you got to look at, and Fortune has definitely been a bright spot for this Carolina team.
All right. Moving on to the scrum half position, another PSA. If Richard Judd is available, go pick him up and go
Dumb, he
drop the
shouldn't be
bank.
available.
71% owned. So there's still a couple leagues out there that is. I
That's
would
dumb.
I would
That's
20%.
so dumb.
Richard Judd needs to be on your
What are you doing?
on rosters.
You even watch the show?
All right. But the option that we have is 0% owned, and I think there's a lot of optimism here with the Utah offense as a whole. But Logan Crowley looked pretty
I
solid.
swear, if they put Zion going in any more game time,
They're going to.
this is the same. I felt PTSD from last year just
With
thinking about the
McVay.
fact that they just were going to keep starting, like they're going to put Zion going on front of Logan Crowley. But
They
yeah,
are.
Logan Crowley, I thought he had a good game. He didn't even get to play the full game, I don't think.
Nope.
But he should have. But yeah, I like him, Vandy. I like him a lot.
I like him too. But as is Zion going in.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. The classic Utah scrum half shenanigans, as we have become
Ridiculous.
accustomed to. On the fly half position, another PSA. D'Angelo Ela, if he's available, 57% owned. So he's actually available in just under half of leagues. He needs to be picked up, especially
Yes.
if you're the Joel Hodgson owner. You need to
Just
pick him up.
careful.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Big time.
careful. Because there's no news on Joel Hodgson. So just be careful.
But, I mean, to your-
just in terms of how much you put down, but he was absolutely money. I just
When is there ever news about anyone?
that's true.
I would- yes.
To your point, Ryan, I can't see him being left out of the lineup after that game.
Yes, then
Regardless
that's what
of
I
what
wanted.
position it is.
That's what I wanted to get into was that.
So that
like,
means we're
I
gonna
think
do it.
even
So that means we're gonna do it.
even if you don't get a
Yep.
fly half out of him, right? I think he's at least at the center position, right? Like I don't think he's just it's like in or not in, right? Type deal. I
policy
agree with
in.
you. It's not an Ardeo or Judge situation where I'm dropping the bank, but I am willing to pay a hefty sum to get him because I think there is value whether he's at fly half or not. 10% I think is solid for me if you'd like to have him on your roster. People gone for free, picking him up when those lineups came out. But we are talking about a guy, Maddie, that we mentioned or you mentioned, I should say, last week. He was on the bye, coming back this week.
Yay.
This team looks better, I believe, with him at the 10 position than having Rodney Iona there. Rodney Iona started last week. We're hoping that Fouché starts this week. He's our fly half waiver wire pickup for both of us. 43%.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got not much to add there. I said it all last week. Watch last week's waiver wire episode.
All right. Moving on to the center
Non-division
position.
Judd owners.
This is a skeptical ad for me on my end, but I am saying it now before the hype train comes through, and that is Nick Grigg. He's only 29% owned, has not appeared in a match, obviously, yet for Old Glory DC. We're coming off a bye. His signing was announced not too far ahead of that first week. I did hear rumblings that he is going to take some time to get customized into that lineup. But if you have the space, and you want to jump ahead on having Nick Grigg and a guy, and we talked about what this Old Glory DC backline could be, Nick Grigg could be a solid option for you if you do have the space and are looking pretty 2 weeks in.
Yeah, and on my side, Vandy, going with another Utah boy, Spencer Jones. He
Balled out.
I mean, he did great last week, but for me, the most impressive part was how involved Utah's offense was in terms of getting him the ball off set piece. They were giving him the ball on every set piece, and he was making the most of it with every time he got given the ball. That gives a team confidence to continue to use him, and he's going to continue to be used.
Love to hear it. I just love seeing all these Utah names up here, boys.
Right?
Hey, man.
It's putting
Right,
just a big old.
Just
smile.
wait until how how MLR works next week. They're all going to be on the drop list.
That's
right.
right.
That's right. It's just like it's just how
I'll be hearing how bad Jordan Trainer is from Matt because he picked him up.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
Well, speaking of Jordan Trainer, though, the optimism is high there still. We haven't had week 3 yet, and Maddie, he's your pickup here this week for the back 3 position.
I put him here simply because of that sweet little offload he had. Oh, that was beautiful.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, no, yeah, I Jordan Trainer looked good. I mean, he was quiet, I think, a couple years ago with NOLA. It seems like he's heavily involved here, and just I like him. I think he'll continue to not necessarily be like an outstanding guy who's going to put up crazy number of points. He'll have his games, but he's just going to have a nice solid floor for this Utah team.
And I think there's value in having the fullback, a guy that you know that's going to start at fullback each and every week.
Yeah.
Just a reliable option, especially with how Utah looked. Speaking of fullbacks, I'm going with Cooper Coates. At this point,
you got to.
You have to. You have
what
to.
You
don't
do?
know. And me saying this probably puts Villamone Karoy in the lineup this week, honestly. But 0% owned Cooper Coates, 27.7 fantasy points.
If Karoy goes in, he's gonna look sick.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, after a loss, right? When's the time? It's just that it worries me. We haven't heard anything.
I don't even know where he is. The guy's probably still in New Zealand.
Yeah, honestly. And Maddie, you mentioned Line Latu. Obviously, he looks good at the 10 position.
I did put him in our pre-show kind of prep, but then I realized even if he goes to the 10 position, he's not even going to kick conversions because Mitchie Wilson's doing it. So what's the point? Take him off the waiver wire. Don't touch him. He did look good, but don't touch him.
Yeah, he will lose his back 3 eligibility this week if he does start at fly half once again. Again, kind of like a desperation play at the fly half. Obviously, that's a thin position with guys that are able to kick, but just to have a guy that you slot in there might be valuable. And then quickly here to wrap it up, defensive set piece. Till further notice, you're picking up the defensive set piece against Anthem Rugby Carolina. Miami Sharks go up against Carolina this week.
Yeah, Miles gonna have a day.
Yeah, we shall see. All right, let's talk ahead. It's got me all hot and bothered here to talk a little bit about week 3.
Rucking Rundown.
Let's talk a little bit about week 3 in our TFR Rucking Rundown. Like I mentioned, on bye, RFC Los Angeles. It's time to get those picks in. Vandy, you're talking about heaters, talking about starting this 2025 fantasy MLR season hot.
Come on.
Look at you. You're leading.
You're leading the prediction segment. Say it with your chest.
Devin, Vandy, Vanderpool. 5-4 here to lead the pack. I am in second at 4-5. Maddie, you're losing at 3-6.
All good, long season.
Early in the season. But we'll start off, see if we can get on the right track here with our first match of the season between Anthem Rugby Carolina and the Miami Sharks on Friday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time in Carolina.
That'll help.
So you're picking.
I assume there's a little bit of
Yeah,
sarcastic
you're
gusto
picking
there.
Anthem, right? It's got to be one of your 3 wins here.
I
Myhill's
know.
about to have a day. Miami Sharks
Or Deo's gonna
maybe
eat.
have a day. I think I think if Kubia's in there, Kubisha is in there, he's gonna have a day. Yeah, boys
Who
are
else
gonna
gonna
have a
have a
day.
day?
Just all the boys.
I think
Actually,
if you're wearing
If Milanos is at 15, that boy's gonna have a day too.
I
I'm
think
going
if
Miami.
Vandy, I think if you're wearing pink and blue that day, you're gonna have a day. It
So
sounds
start
like.
your Miami
Oh,
boys, eh?
Yeah, there you go. Maddie picking Miami. Vandy, I can only assume
oh,
who
do you
you're
know who's
picking.
not gonna have a day though? Ardejo. Not gonna have a good day.
Really?
You just said he was gonna have a day.
I
No,
said
I
he
did
was gonna
not
have a
say
day.
Ardejo was gonna have a
Oh,
good day.
okay.
But what breakdown is he gonna have to get into? Well, what
That's true.
tackles is he gonna have to make?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
You're eliminating
Vandy.
his ability to get points.
Vandy. Who you in here?
Come on now.
All right.
Oh, now.
I'm gonna do it.
I didn't. No.
I'm gonna do it. I
All right,
mean,
bud. Your
there's
funeral.
one. There's there's one opportunity, right? Like if you're looking at
Yeah,
and
this one.
Vandy,
This
you
is the
mentioned
one.
it.
You watched Miami last week beat NOLA
I mean,
and
I'm
said, "Yeah, this
grasping.
is the time."
To be fair, if he's true to his bet, this has to be one.
There you
Right.
go.
I'm
Hey, you're right.
grasping
They're
at
at home,
straws
Ryan. They're
here.
at home. They're at
I'm
home. They're at home.
grasping at straws
Yep.
here
Yeah.
because where else is this Anthem team gonna win?
You're
You
right.
go
Hey,
down.
It's like Arrowhead Stadium. I heard.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna do it. I'm gonna reluctantly do it. I don't think it's gonna happen, but here's the hoping.
If he
I'll
wins
put
this,
Carolina. You are never gonna hear the end of it.
Hey,
Our
that's all
group
right.
chat is gonna
That's
go
all right.
off. We'll see. All right. On Saturday, we do have Saturday matchups this week. Old Glory DC taking on the San Diego Legion at home
Ooh,
Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. This one should be an interesting one. Old Glory
be a
DC
good
coming
one.
off the bye. Legion obviously looking good as they had in 2 weeks in. Yeah, this one's gonna
Yeah,
be fun.
something to note. I don't think Lincoln McClutchy plays here. I think Ethan
Hmm.
Grayson starts at 10, so watch out for that. That's interesting. I think that's not great for their offense because Ethan Grayson looked great at 15, but
so who would be at 15 for him then, you think?
well,
Connor Tupai.
Marcel Brocky's also out, so that's also interesting.
Tupai.
Man, I'm not even sure. I have to look. Maybe Harris Rutherford steps in at 10 and Grayson goes to 15.
Brocky
Yeah,
goes
see.
back to 15.
No,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
because
Brocky's no way Brocky's
I
back.
don't think Brocky's playing.
Oh no.
So it's probably Rutherford, Lopetti, Lutz, James, Oaki, Grayson.
Oof.
Yeah.
And with that being said,
Is this an OG win?
I'm still going San Diego.
All right, Matt's going San Diego. I mean, no, thinking that, like, if we're really, really reading between the lines,
Yeah,
it gives me a
this
lot
is
of
really
confidence with
reading.
DC if that's the lineup they're going to go at. But for me, San Diego has looked too good this year. I'm going to go San Diego. Bandy, what are you going to do here?
Okay. What do you think about this?
I'm switching. I'm going Old Glory.
Wait.
I'm going Old
Oh,
Glory.
you
I'm
took
switching.
my thunder.
I'm going
I had
Old Glory.
it. Because I was going to say,
I had to switch.
OGDC beats Miami.
Yes. On a last desperation play.
They do it, though.
Yes.
Miami beats NOLA. NOLA, I mean, they
Oh.
put 35 on Anthem. San Diego put 50. Ugh.
It's funny. So we're seeing in real live action. Someone commented on or I think Nick Johnson, our stats guru, commented on our last video about your stupid Houston SaberCats pick last week, where it was like, oh, if this happens, that happens. It's like he looks like the guy from freaking The Hangover, trying to count cards, and I'm seeing that again here, where I just see numbers steaming out of your ears.
OGDC. Boom.
Let's go.
DC. There we go. All right. Ryan could take a big lead here. I like this mix.
All right,
We've been pretty vanilla here with our picks so far this season. Let's build a lead here. All right, Vandy, this one's right up your alley. Same time, 4 p.m.
Utah.
Eastern time on Saturday.
What the heck?
Utah Warriors at home taking on the NOLA Gold. A
At
tough
home
one for
in the
NOLA to come
mountains.
through.
Yep.
In the
In
mountains.
the mountains.
All right, so we know Vandy's going Utah. But Maddie, what are your thoughts on this match, and who are you ultimately picking?
Yeah, real interesting. However, I think I'm going to go NOLA here. I'm just going to keep hammering them.
You guys are crazy, man.
This one will be the game that changes my opinion on NOLA. I'm going to
Yeah.
go NOLA too.
What are you doing? They just lost to Miami.
I know. In an off game, it feels like Utah did look good. But this one will determine my confidence level going forward here with NOLA, seeing how they come out. They don't have to win. I just want to see what happens here, because that Miami game
Pick
was
up
definitely
every
not
Utah player, but you're still going to lose.
logic makes sense there, right, Andy? All right. Houston SaberCats, Seattle Seawolves next here on Saturday for last Saturday matchup, 8
This is
o'clock
a good
Eastern
game.
time. This one's gonna be fun. This one should be interesting. What are we thinking here, boys?
Okay, so San Diego slapped Seattle week 1.
Yeah.
Here comes
You know, I'm gonna
Matt
just throw it out
again.
there. Just with you saying that, I'm going Houston in this one. I'm going
This
Houston.
is that you Illuminati
But
right there.
Houston loses to Chicago
Whatever. Pick
by
one.
by 3, and we beat Chicago by 14. So we're
All
better
right.
than Houston.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah, so
Correct. You're
you're
right.
winning the MLR shield.
Oh.
Rack up the
All
season
right. Well,
win.
Vandy's doing his math. Couple things. I hope Alatimu's in the lineup. I hope Davey Kutzer's also in the lineup. Because if they're both in the lineup, regardless, I think Houston wins this one against Seattle.
All right,
Yeah. Yeah, I think Houston just looked too good this week. Seattle's coming off a bye, though. Who's at home? Seattle?
Houston.
Yeah, give me Houston.
Okay.
Nice.
Off the board in Houston. Then last one here, Chicago Hounds taking the New England Free Jacks. A lone Sunday game, 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm gonna go New England in this one. I think New England. I mean, they
Might
look
school
like old
Chicago.
New England fashion.
And I think based on Brian Ray's report, I believe he put out a tweet that saying Jason Potro should be back this week.
Yes.
But we will see. And because of that, I am still going to go regardless New England Free Jacks here.
I'm confident with a lot of my Free Jacks guys fantasy wise going into this one. It should be interesting.
Yeah.
Are you starting Tim Sweel, Maddie? If he
Nope.
starts?
Nope.
No.
Really?
Okay.
Well, you have to. You have to. There's not enough.
Okay,
times in
well,
this
what
league.
if you're
You
in
have
my
to.
shoes and AJ Altimu's starting and Tim Sweel's starting?
Yeah, you go AJ Alatimu. Except, yeah,
I don't know who kicks.
I don't know.
If
I don't know who
Alatimu and
kicks.
Kutzer are on the field.
I mean, we
together.
did see in the past Alatimu kicking. So
Yes, it's true. Didn't do
Um,
that this last game though. But
yeah.
Not
So
even
I don't
New
know.
England.
you're going New
Oh,
England.
boys, there's something in the air about this one. You can feel
Is
it
there? Can you?
in the winds.
Then do it. Then say it.
I don't know if it's my AC or if it's in the winds. I don't know. I
Okay.
gotta figure this out yet. Write Maddie's now. Write his thing down.
All right. Maddie, who you going? New England?
New England.
All right. Vandy?
God damn it. I want to go New
Say it.
England.
I know you want to.
I
What?
want to so bad. Yeah, give me Chicago. Done deal.
Okay.
Chicago
All right.
wins this one.
There you go. Sounding very confident in that one. All right. Well, we got our picks there. Should be a fun weekend of games again. Full slate. Only one team on bye. Should be exciting. All right. Let's wrap up the show here with our talking a little bit about Money.
Yeah, I went the other way, didn't I?
TFR Betting Challenge.
I can't believe they scored 57 points and your over was
Yes.
59 and a half.
This is the TFR Betting Challenge presented by Betstamp. Betstamp betting made easy. If you want to get in on the rugby betting action, check out the link down below. Got first-time new user deals available for you at sportsbooks that are in your area. Help support the show and get in on some action and make some money. Not something that we were doing this week because, again, Vandy, to our point last week, it does feel like Vegas does know something. Happened twice to me. Right? I'm watching the NOLA game. They score those two quick tries. I'm like, oh, this is about as easy a guess when it comes to making money. I didn't put it in our TFR betting challenge, but I had some free bets using the deals that we get through Betstamp on Fanatics. I put $100 of free bets. Would have won me $90. Goes right to the hole. Yeah,
Yeah, that would have sucked. That would have been a hole I would have had to dig myself out of.
All right. Are we
was a
doing
tough
another
one.
case of Matt predicts the lines here?
We
Let's do
will.
it.
We will.
I'll-
Where it stands right now, Vandy, a tough loss for you. Bet the over. It
Down
hit, I think,
15
at
bucks.
59.
Yeah,
Down $15. So you're down
shows you
at
for
a
betting an over.
at a net of
Hey,
$1.66
I also had
here.
NOLA winning.
Yes, you did. And that was a tough one too. And then for me, I had I'm stopping parlays. This is my thing now.
Well,
You're kind of
got
killing
parlays,
yourself,
bud.
man.
This week is not a parlay week because I keep on stop it. I can't
If
do
people
it
won
anymore.
parlays, they wouldn't let you do them.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. All right. Well, all we got to say is that I am still losing the betting challenge at this point. Vandy
Yeah,
is still in the positive. I am
as per
still in the negative.
usual.
I guess before we get into Maddie's predicting the lines, I mean, we'll start off, I guess, with predicting the lines. The line against Carolina the first week against NOLA was 17 and a half. The line against San Diego was 15 and a half. Let's play our weekly game of what is the line going to be against and how big does it get against Carolina between Miami and Carolina?
Yep, it is staying at 15 and a half again because they're lazy and they're going to reuse the line. Actually, I think it's going to drop down to 12 and a half or 14 or something like that.
And are you
14 and a
confident?
half for that
Would
one.
you be confident with any line above double digits here for Miami?
Yes.
Okay. One of our viewers, CJ Rugger, he said that 15 and a half line was a gimme. He put down, I think he
Yeah,
won
he also
five.
spends his entire time bashing Luke Carty. So
He won $500 on
Ooh.
this Anthem. He put a whole bunch of. He said he's usually not a big better, but when it comes to that line, he was cashing on it. All right, Matt. What do you think Old Glory DC San Diego is going to be at?
yeah, Old Glory's got to be the dogs by what? By
I'm gonna
5.5.
yeah, 6.5 would have been my guess. Utah Warriors Nola Gold.
Utah's the dogs by 2.5.
Okay. Houston Seawolves or Houston Seattle.
Seattle's the dogs by 2.5.
All right, and then Chicago New England.
Chicago's the dogs by 3. Nope, 5.5.
If it's anything less than a try, I think I'm taking that New England Free Jacks one. I think. We'll see. That would be probably my favorite one here. All right. I guess then let's get into some of the other rugby that's going on. Obviously, those lines come out. People have been asking. It does seem like the MLR lines come out around Thursday, Wednesday evening, maybe. Available at varying sports books. Here in Pennsylvania, it's been DraftKings and Fanatics and Bet Rivers. I know DraftKings has been a pretty consistent one. FanDuel and some other places. Go line shopping. It does vary. I did see NOLA didn't help, but I did see NOLA as low as -1.5 in some places and as high as -3.5 in other places. So there's value in kind of looking around. Maddie, we do have though the lines for Six Nations and Super Rugby. Was there any matchups in particular that did interest you that you'd like to try to guess the line at?
Uh, yeah. Let's go. Oh man, Wales, England. It's got to be what, 20 something, 21?
Wales, England. Uh,
No, that's not the right one.
that's
Sorry,
not the matchup.
sorry, 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 sorry.
We got Wales, Scotland, Italy, England, France.
Wait, they don't play this week.
Oh, wait.
They're
No.
they're playing on the 8th.
Yes.
Skip that one. Super Rugby.
Super Rugby. There we go. If you wanted to get early on this line. Straight to Super Rugby. What did you
The
like?
G and Drua versus the Waratahs. What? Druas are dogs by what? 7?
9.5.
Hammer that. Drua's going to definitely be within 9.5. Chiefs, Brumby. Chiefs are winning what? They have, for Brumbies are the dogs, I guess, by what? Maybe 5.5?
13.5.
13.5. Yeah, wow, I was way off by that.
That's the first one that I think you weren't so
That's a
great
tough
at.
one. All right, well, that's where we're stopping there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd hammer the Drua versus Waratahs, honestly. 9.5 seems like a lot with how good Drua has been these
Blues
past 2 weeks.
Hurricanes at 3.5 interest you at all as a
Oh,
Blues
yeah.
favorite?
Well, Blues favored?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would take the Blues there. I don't know. I haven't really been able to watch Hurricanes rugby, so we'll have to get on the film there.
All right. So bet of the week, Fiji and Drew underdogs at +9.5. Keep an eye out for the Major League Rugby lines that typically come out on Thursday. And we'll try to get back in the winning column on that side of things here for the TFR Betting Challenge presented by Betstamp. Betstamp betting made easy. Check out that link down below. Get some first-time user deals. Get in on the action. Go win $500 like some of our viewers are doing with some of the lines and take advantage of some Major League Rugby picks.
This is
All
our
right.
insider now. He's got to send us his bets.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we'll see. I think
And then when I lose $500, I'm coming for him.
right. Right. All right, boys. Well, hey, another week in the books, week 2 in the books. Week 3 is just ahead of us. Going to be an exciting one. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to the people before we wrap up the show?
Really just LA. Semi Kudetani. He's on bye, but any information that would be that'd be wonderful. Thanks.
You're gonna
Hey,
start
I
having
think-
one of those. You're gonna start having one of those like cork boards, and you're gonna have like pictures and like Instagram posts. You see him in the distance. Oh,
Demi's here.
Yeah. Maddie, how about you?
Hey, Vandy said it all. I don't even have Kunatani, but I'm invested. I want to see the boy play.
All right. Well, for Matt Yee, for Devin Vandy Vanderpool, another exciting episode 142. I'm Ryan Yee. Good luck on everyone's waivers. Good luck on week 3. We'll see you next week on another episode of the Fantasy Ruckers Show.
You've been listening to the Fantasy Ruckers Show, bringing fantasy rugby to the masses, covering everything rugby from the MLR and beyond. We hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell all your friends. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, connect with us on social media at the Fantasy Ruckers. Till next time, this is the Fantasy Ruckers Show, signing off.